In today's deep dive, we're going to analyze the 2024 electoral map using the most up-to-date polling data from every state that has been surveyed. This will be one of the most detailed looks at the current race for 270 electoral votes, and by the end of it, you'll have a much better understanding of where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump stand and what that means for the path to victory for each candidate. We'll be breaking down each state, explaining the polling trends and how the race is shaping up across the country. So buckle in, because this is going to be a comprehensive look at the political landscape as we head toward the 2024 election. We'll start out on the west coast of Washington state, which is typically a Democratic stronghold. Kamala Harris is currently leading here by 13.8. Now, this is a solid lead, but it's important to note that Joe Biden won Washington by a larger margin, 19 points. Back in 2020, despite this slight drop in support for Harris, the state remains comfortably in the Democratic column, and we're categorizing it as likely blue. Moving down the coast, we get to Oregon, where the race is a little closer. Harris is ahead by just 5 points in the polling against Trump, which is narrower than what Democrats are used to seeing here. Biden carried Oregon by more than 16 points in 2020, so this represents a noticeable shift. Still, Oregon remains a Democratic-leaning state, so for now, we'll mark it as lean blue on our map, though it's worth keeping an eye on. In California, which is Harris's home state, she's leading by a whopping 24.5. There's no doubt that California will go solidly blue, just as it has in every recent election, making it the first solid blue state on our electoral map, giving Harris a significant chunk of electoral votes right from the start. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Next, let's move over to Nevada, where things are a lot tighter. Harris is holding on to a very slim lead of just 1.11. Nevada is a state where polling has historically underestimated Republican support, especially in recent elections. For example, in 2020, the polls suggested that Biden would win by a larger margin than he ultimately did. Given that trend, it's quite possible that Trump could actually flip Nevada, but based purely on the polling numbers right now, we're categorizing Nevada as tilt blue for Harris. So this is one of those battleground states that could easily go either way by election day. Moving east, we reach Arizona, where Trump is leading by 1.7. This is a critical state because Biden managed to flip it in 2020, narrowly defeating Trump by just 0.3. However, in 2024, it looks like the state is leaning back towards the Republican. Almost every poll taken in Arizona shows Trump ahead, so we're putting Arizona in the tilt red category. It's a significant win for Trump as he seeks to reclaim a state he lost last time around. Let's now take a look at Colorado and New Mexico, two states that have reliably voted for Democrats in recent elections. In Colorado, Harris is leading by 11 points, which is a pretty solid margin. However, it's worth noting that the poll we have from Colorado was conducted by a Democratic group, so there may be some bias in those numbers. Even so, based on the available data, Colorado remains a likely blue state for Harris. And in New Mexico, Harris is ahead by 8.5 points, but her lead appears to be narrowing. The most recent poll shows her up by just 6 points. Still, with no major shifts in sight, we're keeping New Mexico in the likely blue column for now. Now, let's move to Texas, one of the biggest prizes on the electoral map with 40 electoral votes. Trump is currently leading in Texas by 5.2. In 2020, Trump outperformed the polls in Texas, which suggested he would only win by a razor-thin margin, but he ended up taking the state by nearly 6 points. Looking ahead to 2024, it's very possible that Trump could win Texas by an even larger margin this time around, possibly as much as 10 points. For now, we're putting Texas in the lean red category, but it's clear that Trump has a strong grip on the Lone Star State. As we move into the central part of the country, we're seeing Trump solidify his support in several states. In Utah, he's ahead by a massive 32 points. This is a solid red state, and there's no chance of it flipping blue, so we're marking it as solid red. Similarly, in Montana, Trump is up by 17.5 points, making it another solid red state. In North Dakota, Trump has a commanding 27-point lead, and in Nebraska, he's ahead by 16.5 points in the statewide polling. However, Nebraska's 2nd district, which includes Omaha and its suburbs, is more liberal, and Harris is leading there by 10. Overall, though, Nebraska remains solidly Republican except for that one district. Now, let's head over to Alaska, where Trump is leading by 8 points. While Alaska has historically been a Republican state, it's worth noting that the polling might be underestimating Trump's support. Alaska tends to lean more conservative than the polls suggest. So while we're categorizing it as likely red for now, it wouldn't be surprising to see Trump win by a larger margin on election day. As for Hawaii, we don't have recent polling data, but given the strong Democratic history, it's safe to say that it will go solidly blue for Harris. Let's now turn our attention to the Midwest, where we have several crucial battleground states. In Wisconsin, Harris holds a razor-thin lead of 0.8. But this is a state where polling has often overestimated Democratic support. In both 2016 and 2020, the polls showed Democrats doing better than they actually did. In 2016, Clinton was supposed to win Wisconsin by 5 points, but Trump ended up winning it. Then in 2020, Biden was leading by 6 points in the polls, but he only won by 0.6. With that in mind, we're putting Wisconsin in the tilt blue category, but it's definitely a state Trump could win. The same story applies to Michigan, where Harris is ahead by just 0.7. Michigan is the most liberal of the Midwest battlegrounds, but like Wisconsin, the polls have overstated Democratic support in the past. For now, we're keeping Michigan in the tilt blue category based on the polling, but it's another state that could easily flip to Trump by election day. Then we have Pennsylvania, which is arguably the most important state in the entire election. With 19 electoral votes, Pennsylvania could very well be the state that puts one of these candidates over the 270 vote threshold right now. The race is a dead heat with both Harris and Trump polling evenly. However, we look at the trend lines. Trump has been performing better in Pennsylvania than he did at this point in previous elections. The state went to Trump in 2016, and then Biden won it by just 1.2 in 2020. Given that Trump has been outperforming the polls lately, we're going to categorize Pennsylvania as tilt red. If Trump can hold on to Pennsylvania, it could be the key to his victory. In the South, Trump is performing well in several states. In Missouri, he leads by 10 points, making it a likely red state. He's also up by double digits in Arkansas, Tennessee, and West Virginia, all of which are solidly red. South Carolina is slightly closer, but Trump is still ahead by 10 points. So we're marking it as likely red. There's no recent polling from Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, or Louisiana, but these states have been reliably Republican for years, so they'll almost certainly go to Trump once again. Let's take a look at Virginia now, which is surprisingly competitive. Harris leads by just 4.8, which is much closer than the 10-point margin that Biden won by in 2020. Virginia has been trending more conservative in recent elections, and while it's still leaning Democratic, it's definitely a state to watch closely as we get closer to election day. For now, we're categorizing Virginia as lean blue. In North Carolina, Trump holds a narrow lead of 0.6, but the trend lines are favoring him. North Carolina went to Trump in both 2016 and 2020, and it looks like he's on track to win it again in 2024. We're putting North Carolina in the tilt red category for now. Similarly, in Georgia, Trump leads by 1.5, and most polls have shown him ahead. Georgia was one of the closest states in the 2020 election, and while Biden managed to flip it, it looks like Trump is poised to take it back this time around. We're marking Georgia as tilt red on our map. Finally, we come to Florida, a former swing state that has been trending more Republican in recent years. Trump is leading by 6 points in the polls, and given the state's conservativeship, we expect him to win by a significant margin. Florida's 30 electoral votes are crucial, and with Trump leading comfortably, we're categorizing it as lean red. So after looking at all the polling data, we have Trump with 281 electoral votes and Harris with 257. This puts Trump on track to win the election, but there's still plenty of time for the dynamics to shift. States like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan will be crucial, and the final outcome may come down to the wire in those battleground states. But as of now, Trump is in a strong position to win re-election if these trends continue. That wraps up our in-depth analysis of the 2024 electoral map. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the race as we get closer to election day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.